Welcome to the next session of Uzak Rota, which is an online travel media company and also the company behind the travel summits, Uzak Rota travel summits. So today we will be exploring a lot of topics. So if there are any still opportunities in the halal travel market or how its future look like. So today I have special guests. So I am from HalalTravels.com. I am the co-founder of HalalTravels.com. It's an online travel agency targeting Muslim travelers worldwide. Today I have Mr. Fazal and Ufuk. We will be talking about the opportunities in the halal travel market. So welcome, Fazal and Ufuk.
Thank you. Nice to be on the show.
It's nice to see you all. So it's actually very great to see that the three people here, including me representing a startup, Ufuk is representing HalalBooking.com, which is a mid-sized company, and Fazal has been around for a while. So the people who watch this video will see the different perspectives, how we see the COVID-19 effect and how we see the future of halal tourism. So that's a great combination. So thank you very much, Gökhan and Uzak Rota, for organizing this event. So we have questions. So also this is a YouTube live session, so people can ask questions on YouTube. So I would like to ask your questions. If you have any, please type there under the comment section of the YouTube. Also, if you would like to learn about more videos, live sessions about the future of tourism in general, so you can go to uzakrota.com, and also you can check their YouTube channel in order to see many other previous conversations that also addressed very important topics, both in Turkish and English. So today's session will be recorded and available on YouTube. So so we want you to stay here until the end. But if in the case that you missed this opportunity, so you can come back and watch the video available on YouTube on Uzak Rota's channel. And please do not hesitate to share the link with your friends and colleagues. I would like to ask Fazal and Ufuk to introduce themselves so that our audience know who we are and what we do in terms of our individual roles in the company and what the company is about. So Mr. Fazal, would you like to start?
Okay, thank you very much. So as you said, I've been in this for a long time. That's why my beard is a bit longer than both of you actually.
Oh yeah.
So, and also, I thought I'll let it grow and not trim it at all till I stay and work from home. So the longer I stay, the longer it will get. I'll have something like the Ruthul movies. The longer and longer. Okay.
It is exciting.
So my name is Fazal Bahardeen. So I started a company called Crescentrating, which basically helps destinations, businesses to enable themselves to target the Muslim market. So we do a lot of stuff, research, consultancy, help them to market, destination marketing, training, all that kind of stuff. Then also we have another platform, which is a consumer platform, more content platform, I would say, which is the halaltrip.com, where we have an app, we have content. However, of course, these days, travel content platforms are a bit tricky, dicey, with not many people traveling. So, but those are the two platforms we have, and that's what we do in terms of helping both the industry from Crescentrating point of view, and then the consumer from Halal Trip point of view.
That is great. How about Ufuk?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my beard might not be as long as yours, Fazal, but actually I trimmed it a bit so it looks more decent than how it was looking like a couple of hours ago. So yeah, my name is Ufuk Secgin. I'm the CMO of HalalBooking. So we are an online platform for halal-friendly accommodation. We are based in the UK, a UK headquartered company. And our company was founded 10 years ago. And yeah, we've got quite a lot of coverage in terms of the portfolio. Currently close to 2,000 properties in 36 countries. Actually, we are going to increase that number very soon to more than 4,000. And we've got customers from more than 100 countries, lots of variety in terms of the customer spectrum, but a lot of the customers are from the European Union and from the Mediterranean region. And it's a very exciting time. I joined HalalBooking 5 years ago. It's been a tremendous growth path. I've seen Fazal or met Fazal at various events. It's a small world, the halal travel tourism world. And yeah, so very briefly, this is what HalalBooking is about.
Thank you very much. So for those also who don't know about halal travel, so let me give some information, and maybe also that would be a brief for Ufuk and Fazal as well. So about 2 years ago, we got together with for co-founders, for entrepreneurs, and we have done some market research and analysis on the tourism industry, and we have decided to address some of the gaps in the halal travel market. So of course, so there are very few players, and Halal Trip, HalalBooking.com was there. So we wanted to be kind of a different within that domain, but also we needed to start with some baseline. So on October 2019, we have started to work with a group of teams. So our team right now, so we are a London-based company, by the way. So we have team in London, we have team in Turkey. I live in the United States. Some of my team members lives in Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. We're pretty much a remote team and startup. So our official incorporation was about a year ago. So we are targeting Muslim travelers, and we want to cover some specific regions, including Europe. So after our market research, when we started, we thought that Arabic market is actually the first market that we need to address. But after our initial analysis of the customers, so we have seen that no, actually, so we can better address the needs of the customers in Europe and in some South Asia area. So HalalTravels.com, in comparison to HalalBooking and Halal Trip, is a pretty young company. So we are trying to differentiate ourselves. So we're investing in the technology, particularly after the COVID-19. A lot of things change, and one of the most important things we have to change is our focus on technology side. So that's why we used to rely on rental technology. So we didn't own our own technology, but we have decided to invest in our technology within the process. So within 2 months, we will be releasing our new technology, web design, and the technology solutions. So this is also what we are and what we do. And I'm the co-founder and managing team leader within the team. And also I'm serving as a data scientist in that realm. So Fazal and Ufuk, so we have watched a lot of video. And of course, some of them are created Uzakrota online, and many of the conversations address the effect of COVID-19 on the tourism in general. So tourism has been discussed a lot in general, but there has been no much conversations and discussions about its effect on halal tourism. So what is it on your side? How do you see the effects of COVID-19? Is it different than the mainstream effect on tourism? What kind of issues special to the halal tourism after the COVID-19? So whoever would like to start.
Okay. I think, halal tourism or general tourism, the effect is exactly the same. There's no difference in terms of the impact on travel, whether you're a Muslim traveler or not, you're staying at home these days,
Right.
And COVID doesn't differentiate between, your faith and all that, or color or all that. I think the more interesting question to ask, I think the fact is that I really think, and there are enough data points to show that I think Muslim travel is not differentiated in terms of its impact currently. Nobody is traveling. The world is at a standstill now. However, I think that the question probably is that the restart, whether there'll be a different restart to the Muslim market compared to the rest of the market. I think that's the question that we are struggling to answer ourselves, and we need to sort of try and answer that, will the Muslim travelers' behavior first will, in terms of starting back, getting back to travel, will they have a different timeline? Second is, yes, when they come back, we all agree, I think, that some travel consumer behavior will change. That's for sure. How will it change in the Muslim travel market or Muslim travelers? I think that's the second question. So I think in terms of the impact, I think it's the same. I think the real question is, coming back, how will they come back? When will they come back? And how different will their behavior be compared to other travelers in terms of travel behavior?
All right, great. Ufuk, would you like to add something about it?
Yeah, I would echo what Fazal just said. Muslim travelers are in the same way affected by the travel restrictions. So you can't travel, you're not allowed to travel. So that applies to everyone. Everyone has to stay at home. There's also, obviously, even if there are no travel restrictions, or if we are seeing now in certain countries travel restrictions will be eased slowly, still there's a lot of uncertainty how the virus will behave. So especially now looking ahead towards the summer school holidays, which are coming up in many countries. So will I be able to travel safely to my holiday destination, which I have booked? A lot of people have got a question mark, can't answer, and we see mixed messages also from the authorities, because to be frank, they also don't know where we will be in 6 weeks' time. It all depends on the lockdown measures being effective and people complying with these measures. So bringing the R rates further down, then probably we'll see also less and less restrictions for international travel. So there's a lot of unclarity, a lot of confusion. Some people are, fearful. Some people also lost their jobs. So there's also economic issues, not only health issues, which are causing probably a negative impact in terms of the travel in the next 2, 3, 4 months. But we're still very hopeful that a lot of the reservations, the bookings we currently have in place, we will be able to fulfill them, and customers will be able to travel and have a holiday. But it's going to be obviously a different type of holiday. It won't be 100% the same way. Many customers actually asking that question as well. So will all the facilities in the hotels be available? How will we guarantee that I'm protected and my family is protected? And lots of governments are now issuing new guidelines and certificates to ensure the safety of travelers. So I think definitely this year is going to be a very, very different travel year, and it had a devastating impact overall to the travel industry, and the halal travel industry is not different from that.
So in terms of perception of the COVID-19, your company doesn't perceive the problem different than the generic companies. Is that right? So in terms of, so you actually agree with Fazal's point that...
Yes, I agree. There's no difference in that perspective. For example, there's some slight difference, for example, in terms of the halal conscious travelers would now, at the end of this month for Eid, travel more frequently. Yeah? So people would traditionally either visit their families back at home, or they would use the public Eid holidays to go to maybe to a nice beach location or some other destination where they can relax and spend time with their family in the nature, because it's public school holidays. But as we currently can see, most of the countries actually will have a lockdown during Eid, and therefore lots of players who would serve customers during the Eid public holidays will not be able to do that. So that's probably a differentiator from the general travel industry, that Eid is a peak time for travel, and unfortunately, because of the restrictions, people will not be able to travel. But other than that, it's the same impact.
Right. So Ufuk already addressed the customer behavior side of the problem, as Fazal started to create a conversation that this is not a problem of the industry. This is actually a question about customer behavior change. So let's dive into that conversation a little bit, because some of our audiences come from a traveler background. So they're already a traveler and they're wondering about, as a Muslim, how they will travel after COVID-19. And some of our audience right now watching from a hotelier background, agency background. So in terms of customer behavior changes, Fazal, what do you see about the changes for the future in terms of customer behaviors of Muslim travelers? Is it still different than the general traveler audience, or is there any specific changes that you see in the process about Muslim traveler?
I think we are all crystal balling now. We don't have solid answers to that question, but
Exactly,
we can of course crystal ball. We can give the opinions, of course. I think we are thinking about that. I mean, first of all, even before we start really talking about the behavior itself, what kind of travel will open up? I mean, that's the first question. I mean, and if you read all the if you read all the research, all the opinions, and it makes sense that it is going to be domestic travel. That's going to be the first stage of travel opening up. So you're going to have. So I think we are going to see a period where people are going to rediscover their own countries. I think we probably if you are sitting in Turkey, you probably have not explored Turkey. You sitting in the US, you probably not explored US fully. So I think that's going to be the key. I think that's an area that we are trying to look from a consumer point of view. If domestic travel is what's going to happen first, how will that happen? What will be their concerns? How will they travel? I think road trips, drive trips, all these kind of things will come into play. From a Muslim point of view, I think maybe, I mean, this we are all speculating because I don't know, because one of the things that we also see is that because Muslims probably are, I don't want to sort of stake a claim on that, probably Muslims will be visiting their families that they have been not able to visit during Ramadan, have not been able to visit during the Eid. So I think one of the things that they might do if they're living in the same country, there'll be a lot of people, visiting their families. So that's I think visiting families actually and friends, probably VFR we call it in our industry, probably will be one of the first ones to come back, I think, domestically. So I think so that might be an area to look at. In terms of course, I think everybody's going to be worried about hygiene. I mean, hygiene is the famous 6 feet rule that we're all going to come to terms with. I don't know how that will play out. It's going to be an issue. But having said that, I think Muslims may be slightly relaxed about those things. I don't know, because of the way they think about life and way they think about a future and all that. They might be slightly more risk taking than others. Maybe I'm just speculating now. But yes, so those are things. I don't think we still have an answer because we are only speculating. We are looking at doing some kind of a research surveys. We are looking at we do of course a lot of reports and a lot of research. So we are looking at the second half of this year to release some reports with MasterCard, which will look into some of these areas, inshallah.
So we travel companies at least learned that. So in order to make certain claims, it's pretty early right now because COVID-19 situations are being changed differently in different countries, and it's really hard to predict the future. So I agree with that. So in terms of understanding customer behaviors, so of course we can't say anything within this uncertainty, but Ufuk, do you see any customer related changes in terms of request, in terms of search on your website? How do you see, how different customer segments perceive the problem among your customer segments? So for example, are families more afraid of looking for certain destinations in comparison to young millennials, because we have certain two customer segments. Actually, millennials' behaviors are completely different than their family or old travelers' background. So, what do you think about in terms of specific customer segments' behaviors change?
Okay, I mean, there are a few things which come into my mind. So obviously, younger generation will probably be less fearful of even contracting the virus. Once it contracts me, hopefully, because I'm fit, I'm young, etc., it will not have any significant impact on my health. So probably younger generation will be more open to travel than the older generation. They will probably be more reluctant and prefer to stay at home or choose an accommodation where they feel it's more safer. So, for example, a private villa. And when it comes to private villas, that has always been one of our strengths on HalalBooking, that we offer private villas with fully secluded pools. So our customer segment is very interested in privacy. So as a family, when you go into the villa, the whole pool section, the terrace section is completely secluded. So that has been always a strong demand for. But now, on top of that, now this COVID-19, people feel it's a better choice to have a villa holiday, because they can maintain the social distance to other travelers, because there's no one else in that villa. It's just privately for them. So we see a stronger demand for these type of holidays, so private villas, and that's also more safer for the older generation to travel as well. Whereas the younger generation still considers also to go into a beach resort, which is more other customers around, more interaction with other people. I think that's something. Obviously, what we see is a lot of people are asking for hygiene measures. So what extra hygiene measures are you actually taking, or is the property taking to ensure the safety? And we've been in contact with our suppliers, regular contact. And obviously, for example, in Turkey, the ministry has, tourism ministry has issued a guideline, a certificate. So each hotel which would like to open this season needs to meet these guidelines and obtain the certificate in order to be allowed to operate. Some of those measures are, for example, that you can only operate at 50% capacity. So you have 500 rooms, you can only operate with 250 rooms. There are certain measures taken, for example, at the restaurants. So there will be plexiglass screens between the guests and the staff which is serving the food on your plates, etc. Lots and lots extra cleanliness and hygiene measures which are being taken. Pool hours, sauna hours, restrictions to how long you can use the sauna, restrictions on how many people can use the pool, etc. So there's lots of restrictions which were obviously, in the ideal world, you wouldn't want to have them, but they're obviously for the benefit of the guests, and guests actually would want to see these. So because they want to enjoy the holiday, but also they want to have the assurance that it's done in a safe way. So customers are actually asking for these, and we are exposing the hotel's COVID-19 measures on our website. So each customer can go on the property page. Currently, it's under the important notes section. So if a property has got a specific COVID-19 measure in place, it will be mentioned there. But we're actually working on an extra section which will be just specifically about COVID-19 as well. So these are the certain things we are doing, and which our customer team is basically communicating to customers. And we see that this is the demands, that these are the behavioral requests by customers. They want to have the assurance that they can travel in a safe way. There's more demand for private settings in, for example, private pool villas, or cottages in the UK, etc. And as Fazal said, it's going to be more domestic travel because there is more certainty that they will be allowed to do the domestic travel. So we're seeing more domestic demand for domestic destinations. And that's why what I said at the beginning, we will increase our portfolio to over 4,000 properties. And a lot of that will be for domestic and regional travel destinations.
So these are great points. So for those who just joined the YouTube channel online, so we have a section for the questions. Please go to the comment section and post your questions. I would like to answer your questions to the audience today. And one of the questions is coming from Hassan Mu'annuddin, and he's asking about our halal travel businesses. So how the COVID-19 affected our business. So Fazal, so what kind of changes you made after COVID-19 to your company? How is it affected?
Alhamdulillah, the good news is that we have not been as badly affected by this. And I keep, I've been on shows now, a few shows now, and they keep asking me why we don't see that kind of impact. I mean, the biggest issue that everybody faces these days as companies, and Ufuk knows very well, is cash. Cash is not just king; it's the emperor now. Okay, cash is if you don't have cash, you don't exist. It's simple as that.
Exactly.
So
yes.
I think why we are not that greatly impacted is that we have a very, very lean, mean team. We have always been very lean, and of course very passionate team. Very So I think that has helped us. So we really, apart from our mode of working, so we have moved to working from home almost. We are almost close to 2 months now working from home. We started before all these government directives to work from home. We started before that. So that has been our main change in terms of the work we do. We still continue to work with of course we have we can see both sides of the equation. We see how the trade is doing, how the what do you call tourism boards are doing, what are they doing, because we work very closely with them on Crescentrating, and we see what Halal Trip is doing, because that gives us insight to the consumer behavior. So we sort of have a picture on both sides. And the good thing is that if you see the tourism boards around the world, they are eager now to see how they can restart travel within the countries. I mean, they are all going to be in a rush to get travelers to their countries. And we are working with some of them, trying to develop strategies and build things so that when it gets better, that they'll be in a better position to target the Muslim market. Of course, that's our expertise. So, in terms of the Crescentrating work, the reality is that we have not seen any real, it's still impacting us. Don't get me wrong, we are all impacted. Cash is, as I said, emperor, but we are still, pretty okay. Having said that, our consumer side of business, Halal Trip, almost all content, travel content websites, their traffic has basically collapsed. Probably collapsed by almost 5 times, sometimes 4 times.
Right.
No different with us. However, we also have been positioning Halal Trip not just as a travel-only platform. We have been more of a lifestyle content platform as well. We have a lot of religious stuff as well. For instance, on our YouTube channel, which is by the way, one thing is really interesting to see. Our traffic on Halal Trip has gone down, the website and the mobile app, but our traffic on our YouTube channel is going up every day. And we have some videos which are like travel duas. It's very interesting to see how. And some of our videos have like 500,000 views, and some have 300,000 views. So they are very well established videos, and it's interesting to see how they are. YouTube use a lot of analytics as well. How for instance, we probably will discuss later. In terms of how we have a video on a travel dua. So the dua to recite when you start traveling. So this was the traffic on this was going up and up since last few months, and come middle of February, it has started crashing down. It's coming down like nothing. So that gives an indication, it's really, and now we are looking to see when it starts to go up, that traffic, because that will be an indication of, Muslims starting to get out of their houses, not necessarily travel far away, but at least starting to travel, because, so I think, so in a nutshell, we are impacted as everybody else, and I've been posting on LinkedIn as well, our first challenge is, we have two challenges, all of us, I think. One is to survive this, which is a cash challenge, simply a cash challenge, nothing else. The second challenge is a business model challenge. When you get to the other side, whether our business model will be still relevant, or whether the services that we are providing will be still relevant, it's probably a completely different challenge. So even if we survive the cash challenge, I think we have a bigger challenge when we get to the other side. So I mean, that's what we are juggling with, yes.
Great. Ufuk, what kind of changes you made at HalalBooking.com due to the effects of COVID-19 in terms of business, particularly?
Yeah, I mean, our business was doing very well until early this year. So we had been on a double growth trajectory for the last 10 years, basically since inception, and we had just completed the Series A round in December, end of December, and everything was geared up to continue this double growth, invest more into marketing, into technology, invest into increasing the portfolio. We had some exciting projects lined up, like, for example, Turkish Airlines. We became a Miles and Smiles partner program. We're working with other partners with whom we are doing marketing collaboration for lead acquisition. And so we saw already early February, end of January, early February, the double growth path was slowly decreasing. So we already saw that there is something on the horizon. And obviously early March, mid-March, I think it was Friday the 13th of March when Turkey actually announced that all flights will be cancelled. That had a dramatic impact. That was like, early March, we already saw sales was significantly dropping, but from 13th of March, that's it. No more sales, no more new bookings. And obviously the call center, the team turned into a crisis center because you're being overloaded with calls and emails by customers who would like to cancel their bookings, who are concerned about the upcoming trip. And it has been, especially the first 2-3 weeks, it has been pretty hard for the customer team in particular to deal with this overwhelming amount of calls and people. Some customers very understanding and patient, but also unfortunately a lot of customers not understanding or not patient, not understanding the impact of such a international travel restrictions on travel companies. They still were operating in their heads in the normal operandi modus. So it's nothing really has changed. So I cancel my booking and 3 days later the refund should arrive with my credit card. That's the type of expectation people were operating, especially in the first 3 weeks. And when we explained to them that, unfortunately, at this moment in time, this is not going to happen. It's going to take longer time because of the extraordinary challenges this coronavirus is causing on the travel industry. People were initially not believing us, but then they also saw this is the same situation with all other travel companies, airlines, big companies like British Airways, Air France, Turkish Airlines. They're all in the same situation, TUI, big tour operators. So they then slowly start to understand, okay, this is not a specific issue with a halal travel company or with halal booking. This is a general issue with the general travel industry. So it had huge impact initially on our call center in particular, and we quickly tried to develop projects to support the customer team. things which we were planning to do in the future, but also other things which we never had thought of, that we would ever have to develop such tools in order to support the customer team and also to support customers. So, the whole organization basically was working towards how can we serve the customer needs and how can we respond to them. Supplier teams obviously in contact with the suppliers to request refunds back. So it has been a crisis operandi crisis basically for 2 months, and obviously on top of that, we are also impacted as humans by this impact, right? By this travel, by the lockdown measures. So offices had to be closed. People have to work from home. Obviously, as a tech company, that was not a major issue for us. We are used to work remotely, and we have got lots of people working all around the world. So that was not Zoom was not a new thing for us, for example, or working with Skype or working with remote tools. That was a standard thing which we had been. So in that sense, it was not a big change. But obviously, still, some of the team members were used to work regularly in the office, have regular interactions. So people had to start working from home as well. So that has also impact on your personal life, and people also are not some people have got a spare room where they can work nicely in the office. So like myself, for example, I'm fortunate in that sense, but some colleagues don't have that extra spare room, and you're stuck with your whole family with small children, and you have to also do your work. So it is not easy to operate for anyone. It's not a specific HalalBooking specific. It's difficult for everyone, and then to still deliver top-notch service to customers, it is a challenge. It is a challenge, but we feel like we've done good work. We've responded to all customer inquiries same day, most of them. Some of them had to wait a couple of days in terms of email inquiries. On the phone, yes, it was a challenge, and many customers couldn't reach us, because the other problem is the customers, once they reach you, they're not happy to finish the conversation in a couple of minutes. So they're talking for endless hours, and the customer team has to manage their needs and expectations, try to explain it several times, but customers are, they would like to speak for you for a long time to get all their questions answered, and that means other customers can't speak to you. And so we encouraged everyone, email us, it's easier, it's faster. And obviously, cash, as Fazal said, cash is obviously an issue for all companies and the travel industry in particular, because it's not only your loss of earnings. So for example, compared to a restaurant, it's closed now, so you're not getting any cash in. But for the travel industry, the problem is you already done a lot of advanced sales. The season started already in November last year. In October, we had early bookings from October for the summer season. So a lot of people had already paid us, and we already paid the suppliers. And now people want their money back. So it is a double whammy, basically, for the travel industry. It's not only loss of earnings, it's also having to refund money to customers. That causes an extra issue. We were fortunate that we were able to get a COVID-19 business interruption loan here in the UK for $2 million. So that helps us to sustain the business. And also there are government grants for furlough schemes, basically, where you can get grants for some of your staff which are furloughed. So these measures obviously help or helped us in particular to survive. And obviously we have to monitor the situation closely. We are hoping that we will quickly rebound as soon as travel restrictions are eased, with all the measures which we have taken in terms of more domestic products on the website available, and also with some of our customers, which I forgot to mention earlier on. Their travel behaviors are different, I think, from the general travel. So some of our customers are more resilient. We've seen it throughout the past years when we had different crises, wars, terrorism, etc., we saw that our customers are more resilient. They travel even when there is general fear in the public. And I think we will see the same here as well. I think some sections of our customers will, no matter what it is, they will travel. So we are hoping that we will be able to help those, and also that in the new normality, with all the measures taken by the suppliers, that we will be able to bounce back faster than everyone else. Because we were just a fast-growing company, we don't feel that we are in the same situation like a company like an airline, which has to cut now 30% of their staff, and who are predicting that travel will only recover by 2023 to the levels of 2019. We don't see that it will take the halal travel industry and HalalBooking that long to recover. So we are very positive and optimistic. We had to sort out short-term financial issues, which have been sorted now, and now we are just waiting to serve customers in the future again.
This is good to see that halal travel companies are still in the business. And as a startup, we also responded to COVID-19. And I want to just address a little bit about it. And then we have questions coming. For those who just joined our live session, you can ask your questions. I'm reading all your questions, and I'll try to cover your questions as long as our time allows us. So, and also, Ufuk and Fazal, I have several other questions, so I would like to address each of them in order to be respectful for the timing. So, in terms of responding to COVID-19 from Halal Travel's background, where I'm representing, so I think in the market, I have seen three different trends. So one is startups in terms of responding to COVID-19. Another is mid-sized companies that used to be a startup in the past, but now in a much more acceleration process, and also established companies. So like big companies like Booking.com, Expedia, or Airbnb. I think their responses were different. So big and mid-sized companies have been affected very, very much from different angles. So big companies made a lot of investments, and they had they have a big employee pool. So they have very expenses. So they needed to cut the employee baseline. So for example, Airbnb, Expedia, maybe Expedia's cut was not directly related to COVID-19 effect, but because of the changes in the management. But at the end, big companies cut the employee at least 20% something. So for the mid-sized companies, the acceleration was really high, and they were hiring new employees. So they were very optimistic about the future, but they needed to stop. And if their expenses were really big, so they even are out of business right now, or their situation is really hard. But I think for these startups, it wasn't so much complicated, because there were two different answers. Whether you are in the business, you're still in the business, or you're out of the business. So most of the startups in the market are getting out of the business, probably because they have a cash problem, as Fazal and Ufuk addressed. So in terms of responses to that point, so our angel investors remained optimistic for the future, and we didn't change anything in the company. And even we kept our own team, because we really believe in the team power. So you might have a good idea in any kind of business, but if you don't have any good team that support the idea, it's going to be very hard to tackle with that. So we wanted to keep our team within the company. And instead of focusing on selling the products as a startup, we wanted to expose ourselves to make us visible in the market. So we have started to create much more content in comparison to before COVID-19. And we also started Instagram live sessions with influencers, with particularly Muslim female travelers who were frequent travelers, and they can be a role model for those who would like to travel after COVID-19. So in the company, because we have been a remote company, as our teams spread out the world in Turkey, London, United States, Uzbekistan. So we were already a very remote team. So it wasn't a big effect in terms of task management, in terms of conversation, and some other growth. So we pretty much like Slack, Trello, and Zoom. So we live within that three angulation there. So we're pretty optimistic about the future, and we're happy that we're still in the business and we're focusing on technology. I believe, Fazal and Ufuk, I think the future is pretty much technology oriented, particularly after COVID-19. And I think any company, whether it's a new company or an established company, it's important to improve the technology and address the personalization and data. So without being a data-oriented company, it is really hard, particularly for startups. So that's why our main focus has been on investing the technology and building the infrastructure for data analyses and for customer analysis. So our marketing team are pretty much focusing on data-driven approaches at this moment. So and we hope to see the changes after COVID-19 and to be strong for the future. So some of the questions, let me address those questions. So I have Adnan Samia from YouTube. So they are asking, and they're from New York, and they say hi, salam. And we have another person say assalamu alaikum. We have another person assalamu alaikum. So what are your thoughts? So he's asking about immunity passport that people started to talk about. So let me combine a few questions, Fazal and Ufuk, so that we cover all the questions in one shot. So one question is about immunity passport, how it's gonna work in the future. And another question is about the Muslim travel statistics change in 2020 and after 2020, because we've seen a very much high growth in Muslim travel market over the years, how it will be affected by these changes. It is going to be a slope down or up. So how is it going to be affected, and what are your predictions? So another question is about AR and VR usage. So some questions are about statistics, and some questions are about the procedures, and some questions are about the technology. So what are your thoughts, Fazal?
Yeah, I think I see the question as well on my screen. So I think, Adnan, Assalamu alaikum, Adnan. I know Adnan well. Anyway, so I think, it's not, I think it's immunity passport is, they're talking about it, but my issue is that, how much trouble will the traveler take to do this travel? If he has to go through a temperature check, that screening, hundreds of, other issues and so many things. And then your immunity passport, getting into a plane, you have so many procedures now. So I really don't know how, you have to be really, really so interested to get on a plane and travel to do that, So that's my biggest, how many people will be interested in, going through all that, to a certain extent, a hassle, actually, all that hassle to get on a plane and go on a holiday with the family. And at the end of the day, as everybody says, until we see a vaccine, we will struggle. The international travel will struggle. There's no question about that, So I know immunity passport, is it going to solve the issue? I really think immunity passport might solve issue for some people who are desperate to travel, but really, people really traveling for leisure. Yeah, I think I agree with Ufuk, which I mentioned earlier as well. The Muslim traveler, to a certain extent, is much more, what's the right word, resilient, maybe, or risk takers, because again, coming from the background and coming from the faith, some of the faith understandings that we have. Even that, even saying that, I think it will be very, very hard to see how somebody is going to go through all that trouble, given the opportunity to explore your own country. Especially if I'm living in Turkey, if I'm living in let's say in the USA, you have so much of opportunities that you probably didn't think of exploring before. Maybe easier choice. And do you need an immunity passport for that to go from one state to another? I'm not sure. So I think that's my take on that. I think at the end of the day, what's going to solve for good, hopefully, inshallah, is the vaccination. And that's
Fazal, How would that work for the travel corridors between the two neighbor countries then?
Yes. So I mean, so basically there are, I think we, I stopped at domestic. So basically, if you look at what's the general consensus, you see 3 stages of travel. You have domestic travel, and the second, what they call is or travel bubble or travel corridors. That's what they call it. And then the third is probably international travel. So yes, I mean, Australia, New Zealand just talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Malaysia, Singapore could do that. Of course, they are, just one border. EU might do that. I mean, EU has been talking about that. If the COVID situation is same in different countries, maybe they can allow some travel. So I think those types of travel. I think the biggest issue is international travel, where you have to travel by air. That probably is going to take a longer time. I think that's my answer to the first question. Do you want me to answer the other one, or Ufuk has a go at this one?
Yeah, so whatever you feel comfortable.
Ufuk, what do you want?
Ufuk,
I really have much to add regarding the immunity passport. I think we have to see what countries will agree on, what they think is best for travelers' safety and for the citizens. But obviously, any extra documentation, any extra bureaucracy, it's a hassle, as Fazal said, and it's an extra friction, which is not going to be, beneficial for the tourism industry. But if it has to be, and if it's done in a easy way, I think people are open for new procedures and they will adapt. I mean, 15, 20 years ago when we were flying, we didn't have these type of security checks at airports. Now this has become, and I remember still the days when they introduced these new scanners and people were, completely against it, and they didn't want to use these scanners, and there were standoffs with the staff, etc. at airports. Now people are complying easily. So I think people, if they see the benefits, if it's done in an efficient and effective way, then people will comply with them and adopt them as well. And I think Muslim travelers in particular, I think in that sense are not very different, in terms of regulation. Whatever it is, they will be happy to comply with that. Some other questions which I saw here regarding the trend of the Muslim travel trend, the projection, is it gonna nosedive or is it gonna peak again? I think whatever the projections were until Friday the 13th of March, I think it's going to be pushed down into the future slightly. But as soon as there is a vaccine available, I think we will see a strong rebound of the halal travel industry. I think halal travel industry was growing by 8-9% per annum, which is a huge growth trajectory. I think it's going to come back to that growth trajectory once people can freely travel again and once there is a vaccine available.
And I think adding to that, Ufuk, I think vaccination, from my point of view, might not be still solving the problem, because we have some problems about the massification of the vaccination. And also our scientists don't know really if you are immune by COVID-19, and we don't know yet it's going to come back even if you already experienced COVID-19. So there are several questions there. So that's why, I think it's not clear yet to make sure that the vaccination will be answering the questions here, but it's going to certainly remove some of the fears in the market, and it's going to allow people to think about and about their travels. So in terms of responding to some of the technology-related questions and data-related questions, so I would like to answer those questions, because as a startup, we know that in order to survive in the market, so there are two important things. One is technology, of course. So even though technology is not on the center of the business, particularly in the tourism industry, because you have to win the customer anyway, without or with technology. But without any technology, I think it's pretty hard to to meet the needs of the customers if you're serving online. And of course, there is no question, even for the local agencies, so everybody need to be online anyway. So that's why investing in technology is pretty much important. Customer experiences, user experiences in your website is pretty much important. Also understanding the customer behaviors that they visit your website. So it's pretty important to see what is affecting and what kind of change is happening. And you need to understand the behaviors of the customers from the point of data. So otherwise, many of the assumptions will be just assumptions. So you can see some trends in Google Analytics, but that doesn't give you, so those differences are statistically significant. So we have to find statistical significances in terms of customer behaviors and in terms of A/B tests or so kind of things. So data will be very much important for not only startups, but also mid-size and big companies in the future, because travel industry is getting into the personalization. So we have to be relying on personalization within that environment as well. Particularly after COVID-19, it's been a must, I believe. But in the past, travel industry, even though we're toward that personalization, only big companies were investing into that environment. But data, big data, has become a must at the moment right now. So in terms of VR and AR, one of the questions was about that. So of course, AR and VR is going to be a travel trend in the future, and not only as a replacement of the actual travel, but it might be serving as a kind of giving a taste of the destination. So for example, if some companies adopt AR staff, for example, AR visualization of a destination like Ephesus, like Antalya, like Cappadocia, so people will get into that AR world and get some taste of it, and then they will continue to book the actual trip. So it's not a replacement. So we have seen at the beginning of the COVID-19, after the crisis hit, some of the companies were trying to address the virtual tour, but I don't think virtual tour is going to be a main dominant effect into the travel industry. It's a kind of temporary solution for those who would like to explore the destinations and really board at home. But it's not it doesn't have an impact on the actual travel industry here in the market. So these
if I may say, I think these technologies will help to market the destination better. Yeah, so customers will understand better what to expect. As you said, they will not. It's not going to be the same feeling. Yeah, you want to feel it. You want to hear the sounds. You need to have the humidity, the temperature, the weather. You want to feel that. The breeze of the wind, etc. The noises, the smells. And actually able to walk through the ruins of ancient palace maybe. I think it's completely different than having this technology, and it's just to understand what to expect, become more certain before you make your reservation, your booking, that you actually want to go to that destination. But I don't think it's going to be a replacement. But technology in general, of course, is as technology, the travel industry, if you're not prepared to invest into technology and stagnating, you will fail. Others will create a startup and they will overtake you, because customers always obviously go for the solutions which are more user-friendly, more meeting their needs. So that's a given. You have to constantly develop new technology, new features on your platform, to make customers easier to make a booking, to take a decision, to compare, to understand read other customers' reviews, being able to get actually good understanding of what's the room layout. Yeah, so how many beds are in this room? What's the maximum occupancy? Will I be able to, there are so many things which customers actually want to know before they make a decision to make a booking. And So you need, as a company, you need to respond to these needs by developing the features, and that's only possible with a strong engineering team and with a good customer team which actually understands the insights, passes on the insights, understands the requirements of the customers. So, for example, one feature which we are going to launch soon is about payment timing. So payment timing has always been important, but it's now even more important before and after now, or during the COVID-19 pandemic, because customers want to be able to pay as late as possible. They are not the times of making a payment 9 months in upfront before your actual check-in date. I think they are gone. People, they might be able to pay a small amount at the beginning, and the overall 89% of the amount just a few weeks or a few days before the actual travel. I think that's another feature which everyone has to probably introduce, and also suppliers, hotels, etc. They need to be bringing that into their business operations. That's obviously a cash flow impact that will have, but they need to understand that customers' behaviors are changing. They need to happy to accommodate those, and technology companies, OTAs, they need to be able to develop the features to allow for such things.
Yeah, I mean, on the technology side, just to add my two. I mean, I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, VR is, it's good to have. I mean, VR AR was already being implemented in many ways in our industry in terms of exciting the destinations. Unless when you have the holodeck technology, maybe we might travel less.
Right.
With Star Trek holodeck that you can touch and feel and all that as well. Yes, when that comes. Yeah, so I think we were already on a. I think when it comes to technology, I think what we really need to look at in terms of innovation is how can we make the user journey much more interactive, much more easier. We are going to have a lot of pain in travel. How can technology take away that pain as much as possible? Or they're talking about, you don't have to, talk to a receptionist when you go into a hotel anymore. You have your app, you walk in, you go right to the door, you unlock the door with your mobile app or get into the room. I mean, they're talking about that, and I think it's going to be a reality, actually. There are already, technology companies. So I think those kind of things, making the user journey easier, making it hassle-free, taking the pain points out of the journey. I think that's where I think technology has to play a role, And just on the here, I think there was this from Omar. There was the question on statistics. Yes, I think statistics still remains a key thing for us to know. So I mean, we have been collecting data for the last 11 years now. And what we have done also during this time is, we have not had the time during the last 10 years to sort of put the data into a proper data platform. So actually, that's what we have done. So we have really built complete the first phase of building a solid data warehouse with data analytics and all that, and we'll open it for public probably sometime in the next month or next 2 months. And answer to your specific question, I think there's no question the Muslim market, as the other markets, are going to be down by at least 70% maybe this year compared to 2019. Absolutely, probably even more than that, and whether you will, I think the biggest question that everybody is asking, when will the 2019 numbers reappear? Is it going to be 2021? My answer is definitely not. Is it going to 2022? Probably not as well. We are probably looking, getting back to 2019 times. We are probably looking to at least 2+ years. We shouldn't be too optimistic, because we have to be realistic running a business. You have to plan your business properly. So having any expectations of when 2019 will get back to the 2019 levels, we all hope that it is 2021, but maybe a longer journey than that.
It looks like that the effects of coronavirus, COVID-19, will be much more staying here for a while. So we'll see how it's going to change the future of travel, as we have been hit hardly, largely by the COVID-19. So Ufuk and Fazal, time flies. I can't imagine. So it's already been about an hour. So I don't want to keep the conversation. So we have a lot of topics, actually. We can keep discussing and sharing our thoughts. But I would like to ask one last question, and I think that our audiences would be interested in, because as I mentioned previously, we have people coming from customer background. They are travelers, and they're wondering about whether or not they can travel and they can start booking. And what is your suggestion about the customers, and what kind of things they need to look for when they search and book their holidays? What time is the best? And particularly in relation to that, how can they travel to Turkey? Because Turkey explained a very recent hotel certification process and some measurement. Will this change? Ufuk already mentioned some of the points, but will this change the customer behavior, particularly for the European customers, maybe the neighbors for the Turkey? And also from a hotelier perspective, what do you suggest for the hoteliers, local travel agents? So I think Fazal and Ufuk already addressed some of the points, and particularly the Ufuk when he was talking about the innovation. So he already addressed the innovation side of hotels and local agencies. But in general, what are your suggestions to hoteliers, local travel agents, and at the end, customers? So Ufuk, would you like to start with that?
Yeah, I think it is just one second. So I think I would answer this question is in the following way, that customers, the hotel owners obviously need to get the basics right by ensuring that they're compliant with whatever the regulations are, and then clearly communicate what actions they have taken, what measures they have taken through travel agents, through OTAs, or directly to their website to their customers. So customers are actually feeling that, okay, this is a good hotel, that they are taking maximum standards measures in order to allow me a safe holiday. I think the other thing is that customers obviously need to see, wherever they are located, does it make sense for me to do a long trip to the other end of the world? Maybe this year I just go for a shorter trip, maybe just by car, by train, or just a short-haul flight. I think my advice is, if you already have booked your holiday, I think you should just wait patiently until there's clarity in terms of the final travel restrictions being eased or not. At the moment, it looks very good for the summer school holidays. It looks that many countries will actually allow, especially regional, international travel. But if you haven't booked yet, a lot of companies now offering free cancellation rates, so you can book and you can cancel for free of charge, at very short notice. And also customers can also think about maybe booking a holiday for your October period, because October is still far away in the distance, and there's enough opportunity to wait how this whole virus will pan out. So I think very, very short, I don't know if it makes sense. Those would be my advice. Choose maybe a destination which you can easily understand the full remit of what is being offered there. Go for a flexible rates where you can easily cancel, and just follow the advice of the government where you're based to understand what the repercussions are.
And I think also, in addition to that, Ufuk, I think for the customers, it's important to look for the companies that have a good connection, good customer service with that. Because one of the questions was about what would happen if the COVID-19 hit again when they are on the holiday or they are in the hotel. I think in that sense, it's very important for the companies or travel agent immediately respond to that problem and help the customer. So that's why, from a customer point of view, it is very important to have a good connection with your company. And we have even seen an increase in the travel consultations, as a lot of people were talking about, hey, private travel consultation is going to be dead, but I think it's coming back. And in terms of online travel agencies, I think that refers to the customer service. So please go to the companies that they have a strong customer services, which is very important. So for the hotels, I believe, maybe adding to Ufuk's point, I think training of the employees is very important. So countries is releasing some measurements and some certifications like Turkey, but that actually depends on how you perceive and implement it. So you can create some changes within your hotels or within your local agencies, but if your employees do not understand the changes or underestimate the changes, so then your customers will not be happy about it. So other than focusing on the surface of the problem, so you need to convince and train all the employees within the company in order to make a good response to that. Fazal, what would be your addition to that? And then we can, I think, conclude the conversation.
No, I think I agree with you what Ufuk said. I mean, from a trade point of view, I think they have to follow the regulations, and I think most importantly they have to communicate their value proposition much more stronger. What actions they have taken to protect the guests that they're coming to their hotels. I think communication is going to be extremely key. In terms of the travel, I mean, there's nothing much to add than what you guys have said. I think it's all relevant. From a consumer point of view, I think we shouldn't dream of traveling long distances for the next probably the short, probably medium term. I think it's a great opportunity for us to rediscover or discover our own regions, own countries. For two reasons. One is that we probably have not really visited our own countries. Many of us really not really discovered our own places. Two, the biggest businesses who are hit are small businesses in our own countries. Small businesses are badly hit. Micro businesses and SMEs. So one way of helping them actually is to travel in your own countries, and you will probably try and help these businesses also to get back to what they were doing. So I think you can still plan. I mean, we I keep saying that as well. For thousands of years we have been traveling, humans, and that's not going to stop. It will never stop. I mean, nothing of this sort will stop. It will come back. I mean, it's a matter of time. While we sort of become big explorers again, let's explore our backyards, and also in the process help our own communities.
Fazal and Ufuk, thank you very much for your conversation and expert view on the future of halal tourism and in general in tourism. So we have today covered some points from customer perspective and also from hoteliers and local agents' perspectives. And today I represented HalalTravels.com as a co-founder. Fazal Bahardeen represented Crescentrating and HalalTrip.com, and Ufuk Secgin was from HalalBooking.com, and he's the head of marketing there. So in brief, we tried to cover the topics that how the effects of COVID-19 change halal travel industry and how our responses as a startup, me from HalalTravels.com, and as a mid-sized company, maybe HalalBooking, and also the Crescent rating responded to that changes. So I tried to cover many of your questions that you already posted on YouTube. But if I miss any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, Ufuk, and Fazal to get answers for your questions. Again, thank you very much for Gökhan Erdogan from Uzak Rota And thank you, Uzakrota, for organizing this conversation. This video will be available on Uzakrota's YouTube channel. So if you miss some part of the conversation, if you just enter the conversation, please go to YouTube channel of Uzakrota and check the link. I think at least by tomorrow, probably it would be available by tomorrow. And then do not hesitate to share it with your friends and colleagues and try to analyze the details that we have discussed today. Ufuk and Fazal, thank you very much. So our conversation is concluded by now. So everybody take care and stay safe and well.
Thanks.